Fosro of Galera, what's the crack? We're going to talk about heat today and how it affects an athlete and an athlete's body. I mean, the World Cup is on at the minute in Brazil, and the next World Cup is on in Qatar, so the temperatures over there are 30 degrees Celsius plus. Okay, so there's different ways and different things we need to consider when we're talking about heat and the athlete. We need to consider the climate we're in, so we need to consider A, the temperature, and we need to consider B, the humidity. We also need to consider the athlete themselves, so their acclimatization to the climate and also their ability to get rid of heat, so to dissipate heat through sweating. We also need to consider the type of exercise, okay, so which type of exercise are we doing? Are we doing high intensity sprinting like 100 meters, or are we doing a long marathon? Okay, first of all, let's have a look at that. Let's have a look at the types of exercises. So, heat when we're doing a 100 meter sprint, so really high intense exercise, may actually give us some benefit because it'll be similar to the effects of a warm-up. The muscles will be warm, nervous system will be turned on, and you're not going so far that your body overheats to the point of reducing your performance. Okay, so that's sprinting. What about a marathon run? Well, a marathon run is a lot longer, and obviously the heat is going to have a little bit more of an effect on us. So there, what will happen is after about 20 minutes, the temperature of our limbs, so maybe the temperature in your legs, will exceed your core body temperature. At rest, your core body temperature is typically about 37 degrees, so it's in around here. And your limbs then will actually be a little bit less than that, so they could be in around 35 degrees Celsius when you're at rest, okay? When we exercise, what will happen is, yes, your core body temperature will increase, but your limb temperature will actually exceed your core body temperature. Your body can tolerate about 40 degrees Celsius in your core body temperature. Any more than that and you're reaching a critical level. Your limbs can tolerate about 42 degrees Celsius. Any higher than that, again, you're reaching a critical level and your body begins to shut down. So how is that affected by humidity? So humidity is important because that relates to an athlete's ability to dissipate heat via sweating. So when we exercise, we obviously get warm, we sweat. That's our body's mechanism of giving off heat. When we're in a warm, dry environment, the barrier between our body and the atmosphere, the gradient there is greater, so it's easier for our body to sweat, okay? When we're in a very humid environment, there's less of a gradient there, and what happens is the sweat will more or less just drip off you rather than actually be evaporated off you. And as a result, there's no change in core body temperature. So in a warm, dry environment, there's more of a heat gradient between your body and the atmosphere. As a result, you can lose more heat and cool down, which is important. Whereas in a humid environment, there isn't as much of a gradient, and as a result, it's harder to reduce your core body temperature. And that's particularly important in Brazil because, again, it is so humid. Even though the matches are on the evenings and the sun isn't out, the humidity is still really, really high. The next thing that an athlete can do is acclimatize. So that's just literally spending a bit of time doing a bit of training in this particular type of environment. So, for example, most of the teams out in Brazil would have gone over a little bit early and spent a couple of days acclimatizing, getting used to the weather, getting used to the heat. This helps them in a couple of ways. It increases their blood plasmic volume, so basically they'll have more blood in their system, and this allows them to retain more water, so as a result when they sweat they don't lose as much water during exercise if they hadn't acclimatized. Also, when they do sweat, they don't release as much sodium, so they don't lose as much sodium in their sweat. Their body retains that sodium because it knows it's going to sweat, okay, and that's important for electrolyte balance. The third thing you'll also notice is that resting heart rate in that temperature will be actually lower, okay? Also with athletes, when you do begin to do training, your body begins to learn how to sweat earlier. So someone who is sedentary and who goes training, sweating mightn't set on for maybe 10 minutes, and as a result, when they hit 10 minutes, their core body temperature is really high, and all of a sudden their body throws in a big signal to say sweat, 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 gotta lose this heat, but as a result their temperature has actually gone too high already. Whereas when we're accustomed to training and when we're more of, I suppose, we're an athlete in that situation, your body is going to sweat a lot earlier because it's very familiar with exercise. In summary, the athlete can acclimatise to the situation. There's a difference between doing a 100 metre sprint and a marathon in heat. and there is also a difference between playing in a hot, dry environment versus a hot, humid environment. If you liked the video, please do subscribe. Check out the next video, which will be just here, and we'll be talking about this graph and a little bit more why heat affects performance. Páirt ghlacadh in our Bród, agus bris Geimhle.